go ahead and start the recording here, and then it'll just be a minute or so before I have something to talk about. Just start talking once I see something. Alright, gotta be careful when we're sitting up here on the high grounds that we're not getting sniped, so when we're the only thing visible to them, this just makes it very easy for them to shoot at us. So honestly, being on this top left high ground a lot of times isn't gonna be a great idea because of the fact that it's super easy to get shot at from here, right? So for example, like basically the reason why is because when we're standing up here, we're the only thing they can shoot at, right? At all. If we're standing back over here, this is a little bit better because then our team's distracting them as well, and that helps us out. Um, so we also just want to make sure that we're moving around. We're not like kind of making it easy for them to shoot at us. Here we kind of have we're kind of standing still a little bit because I think we try to go for the dynamite. When you know that people, I understand the tech that you want to look to stand still when you're hitting a dynamite, but that doesn't apply when people are shooting at you. Right? If you stand still to hit a dynamite and you have a Hanzo shooting straight at you, that makes it very easy for him to hit that shot and kill you. So here you're going to see that we kind of aren't really moving around too much in a moment. Like here we kind of stand still. We move it backwards a little bit, but that doesn't really ever do anything when it comes to strafing, right? If you're just moving backwards, you stay literally in their line of sight, right? If we're just going forwards and backwards here, they have the same exact perspective, so it's not going to do anything against them. We always want to move left, right, left, right. That way we get strafing going. So we just want to make sure we're not standing still when people are shooting at us, and then that just results in an initial pick, which, of course, is going to do pretty poorly and lose us this fight, or do a good job to ruin us. All right. And then same thing again. Just want to make sure that, when we're scoping in, shooting at him, it just becomes a very, very easy target to hit because we're standing still, letting him shoot at us for free. So make sure that we're being very, very careful when Hanzo starts charging up on us, that we're moving around, we're not standing still for him, because then that just means we die again, once again. Right? So we stop over to the soldier. Alright, I think I might talk about something in a second here. Okay, Helix is looking pretty good. Alright, we go take a high ground. I like that. We're repositioning in between fights. It seems like we do understand the importance of high grounds, though. That's really good. But just, again, it's very easy to get shot at from here. Not a lot of cover. So we'd probably be a lot better off standing over here. We can do something very similar. We just want to be very, very careful when we're on these high guns and we're paying attention to things that can one-shot us. Now we're at 2 with 09. We're going to go over some stuff here in the practice range. First thing we're going to go over is some positioning stuff, and this is going to be how we can look to stay alive a little bit better when we're on the high ground like that. So we'll just go soldier real quick. Alright, so basically, we'll just go over positioning to start off, just general positioning, and then we'll move to high ground positioning here. So basically, when we are standing right here, right, and there's a bunch of enemies sitting over there and they're shooting at us, it takes us, even while sprinting here, but there's a lot of characters can't sprint, but it takes us 1, 2 seconds to get behind cover. Now, from here, we cannot get shot at. You can't shoot through solid objects, so that means that we are safe, but in the time it took us to walk here, we died because we were too far out in the open. From here, we are able to, in half of a second, we can shoot at stuff the same, and in half a second, we can go, boom, they can't see us, right? And this means that this is much better positioning. Therefore, good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover if we're standing over there where there's nothing. Or the further and further away we go from cover, the worse and worse this positioning becomes because we have to run so far to get to it, right? And that just means it kills us. And that's kind of how we were approaching the high ground, which we'll go over in a second. And there's a lot of different types of cover, right? You have slopes, you have pillars here, right? When you're reloading, in between shots, when you're low health, or when you're trying to dodge out stuff, corners, right? You have objects, right? You pillar, right? Corner, doorway, corner, and then high grounds all act as natural cover. So this entire thing all acts as natural cover, right? They can see us, now they can't see us. He can see us, now he can't see us. We add in a crouch, right? So all high grounds act as natural cover. On top of that, I think I don't even need to explain the rest because you seem to be going to high ground a lot, so that's really good. High ground is good, but we're misusing it, right? There is a bad way to use high ground, and that's if we did this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people can shoot at us. Can we shoot at 5 people at once? The answer is no. No, we can't shoot at 5 people at once here.
Yeah.
So, but 5 people at once can shoot at us, right? We can be shot at by 5 people. So instead, what we can do is look to back away from the ledge. Kill them. We move on to this person, right? We move on and on, right? It just means a single person on their team shoot at once. If we're trying to, peek to see where everyone's at, we can peek over for a second. Right, same thing over here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 people can see us, right? Move to the left, right? 1 person can see us. We move further back, now they can only see a sliver of us, right? So we're just making it so that it's a lot harder to shoot at us. We have a lot more survivability because immediately right off the bat, we're like 2 minutes in the game and we died 3 times, right? In the exact same spot every single time. So we want to kind of like make sure we're not dying because dying obviously is very bad for you. And it means that you're not really going to be able to do much, right? Now, when it comes to strafing, right, a lot of times we're kind of standing still or we're not really strafing too much. You don't want to do this because, like we said, you just literally remain in the exact same spot on the enemies if you're just walking forwards and backwards. So you want to move left to right. You don't want to do this too fast because if you're doing it too fast, then again, we're not moving anywhere on his screen, right? We can do this and literally be aiming in the same spot. And we don't want to do too long because if we're doing it too long, then it makes it super easy to predict where we're going, right? Instead, we want to find a nice medium where we're going kind of to each side of their head here. You can mix it up, like you don't have to do exactly that, right? But you can be randomized with it, but you don't want to do it too fast and you don't want to do it too slow is the thing. You kind of want to find a medium temp to get harder to shoot at. And that's just how you like survive a little bit longer, make it harder for people to shoot at you. And then we're gonna go over one more thing, and then we're gonna go back to the thing there. All right. Now the next thing we're gonna go over here is called crosshair placement. Are you familiar with that term?
No.
No? Alright, well then we'll go over it. So essentially crosshair placement is taking a crosshair and placing it in the best place possible to hit the most shots in the easiest shots. Now, the first major step to this is placing our crosshair at head level. If we place our crosshair at body level, this makes headshots much harder to hit. So headshots are obviously much better than body shots, right? You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? So almost twice as much damage if you're hitting headshots. And if we're aiming at body level, this means we have to adjust up and to the right or up and to the left. Whereas if we're aiming here already, we just have to go left or right. And, it's obviously a lot harder to hit a shot when you're having to go travel a further distance. When we're already right here, it's a lot shorter of a distance, so this shot is a lot easier to hit, right? On top of that, it makes our base fire, like basically just our primary default shots, headshots, right? So if we're turning around this corner and putting in spam damage and we're aiming body level, our default kind of shots are body shots, but if we're aiming at head level, our default shots are now head level, right? If we're just keeping it there. Right, now there's another part to this, is not just that, but we also want to place our crosshairs where we know people are going to be. If we know the bot's on the left side, we're going to pre-aim a crosshair at head level, a little bit away from the door so we have time to react, so that when he comes out, it's very little adjustment, right? It's just very little, makes it super easy. Right, he's on the left here, so we're pre-aiming left side, already aiming head level, so when he comes out here, we're already aiming at his head. Okay, here these guys are on a little bit of a slope, so just like on a Torbjorn, we look down a little bit lower. On a tank, we look higher, up a little bit more, right? On these guys, we're going to aim down a little bit, which means when we come out here, we're pretty much already looking at their head, right? So we just want to make sure that we're looking to maintain good crosshair placement, and that's how you better your mechanics, and it's just basically using your brain to help your aim out.
Okay.
Right, so we're on King's Row. I hope this is the right one.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
entering ready for battle.
All right, so 3 deaths in not even 2 minutes because there's like the spawn, like the very beginning. It
I
counts
don't quit till the
like
fight's
the
done.
30 seconds before the game starts. So there's a lot of deaths so far. We'll see if that keeps up because that's seeming like probably the biggest one at the moment.
This is not your time.
All right, so reposition back up to high ground, but this time I probably wouldn't go left side as we died 3 times from there. Okay, yeah, we made the correct decision, right? Yep, that's good. We're learning from our mistakes. That's exactly how you look to just improve, right, and get better. Is you look at your mistakes, you go, okay, what did I do wrong? How did I die there? Right, deaths are a very very big one. About like 75% of your deaths you're gonna be able to learn from, right? You can look at those 3 deaths that you just had and go, why did I die? Right, and that's exactly what I just told you. It's like it was positional. It was making standing still. Right, it was being probably in the wrong high ground spot. Right, so we think about that and we go, okay, well, where could I be instead? Right, so instead of the mistake, the next step is how could I fix that mistake or what could I do better? So that would be probably standing with this high ground, right here, or over here. It'd probably be over 8 too. But this here, I'd probably say is a little bit too far away from them. Right. And then thirdly, we're trying to apply that. So just making sure we're actually applying it. Here, I'd probably say this is slightly too far away from them, and left side might be a little bit better for us. All right, so 3 minutes. Sorry, just to cut back in the training range real quick. This one will just be like 20 seconds, or like 10, 20 seconds here. But I just want to go over like damage fall off and why you don't want to be sitting at that range. Right. If we're all the way up here, or we discuss, we'll do body shots so it's easier to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, we'll do headshots since this is since we're soldier and it takes a lot more shots. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Then we move further. Now we're over here. This is now we're starting to do less and less damage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, yeah, actually, it's the same thing from there. All right. Now we get to here. All right, now we're gonna start doing less damage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, getting back here. All right, now we're doing even less than before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, doing basically half as much damage as we were doing before at the close range. And this is basically the range that we were just sitting at from those guys in that game that we were just in. Right, and we want to make sure we're a lot closer. This is also going to be a lot harder to fight at this distance. Soldier is a mid-range character. He prefers this range. He's capable of playing back there, but when we're playing back here, it's going to mean we don't have a scope. We don't have any lower sensitivity. So when we're trying to hit shots from here, it's very inaccurate because it's very small targets. And on top of that, you get fall off the further and further away you get. So we just want to make sure we're a lot closer than that. So the top left high ground would probably be slightly closer to them than the top right high ground.
Okay. Yeah, the damage fall off. Yeah, I know of it, but I don't think about it in the game. Yeah.
Yep. And then you do the exact same thing applies to Ash too. So we want to make sure we're not doing that on like even sitting at this range honestly should be fine on Ash, but like there's some times where you can position a little bit too far. All right. All right. Make sure that we're watching when watching the deflect and not letting him shoot at us for free. Right, so just make sure we're not shooting immediately as we see him, because he's probably going to be deflecting immediately as we see him, right? Pay very close attention to the deflect, kind of watch your matchup, pay attention to, like, what character is he on, because if he's on Genji, he's going to be deflecting as soon as he sees you. Don't shoot as soon as you see him, because that results in us dying, and then now that is the 4th death we've had in 3 minutes, right? Deaths seeming like a very, very, very common thing, so let's talk about the importance of that real quick. Right? Each death is 10 seconds of respawn time, 10 seconds of walk back time, roughly, right? Which means that means that each death is 20 seconds where you are not participating, not just not existing, but also leaving a negative impact on your team in the middle of fights, right? Like this, for example, us dying here is probably going to end up, us and Ana, right, is probably going to end up losing us the point because they're going to come in and they're going to cap while we're dead and in spawn. So deaths are obviously very, very bad for you. It leaves a very negative impact, and you get 0 value as well. You can't get positive value out of death most of the time. So some deaths are going to be all right, but most deaths you're not going to want, and deaths are worse and worse the earlier that they happen, right? If we're dying at the very beginning of a fight, that's worse than if we died at the very end of a fight. Dying at the very end of the fight, it's a lot of times is a little bit more acceptable, right? Now, that means that for this the 4 deaths that we've had so far has taken an entire minute and 20 seconds out of our gameplay so far, right? And that's it within, let's say, like 2 minutes and 20 seconds, right, out of the timer. So let's say we do, it's 3 seconds. We'll just do some quick math real quick, right? So let's say we're 2 minutes in, or 2.5 minutes in, right? And then let's say there's 20 minutes in the game in total, right? 20 divided by, actually, yeah, let's divide by 2, right? It's 10, so 10 times 4 would mean that we would be dying. Okay, that's actually a little bit too much, but that'd be like 40, right? But let's just say we die like 20 times this game, right? If we're keeping up this rate at the moment, which I would say is very unlikely, because 20 deaths is pretty insane. But that means that we're spending most of this game doing literally nothing, right? So we want to make sure that we're very much paying attention to our survivability and making sure we're staying alive. I'd probably say an easier number for you to wrap your head around is, let's say we just average, like just throwing a number out there, let's say we average 10 deaths a game, right? If we cut out 3 deaths from that, we are now adding on an entire minute of gameplay where we are participating in fights, getting ultimates, doing damage, getting kills, right? Doing an entire minute's more of time. So that'd be now cutting it from 10 deaths down to 7 deaths, right? Doing another 3, cut it down to 4 deaths. Now that's an entire 2 minutes that we're adding on to the game, right? That is time for an entire ult and a half, right? That is time to get multiple kills, right? Time to participate in a ton of fights. And so far, we're just dying quite a bit. It's happening very often. So really, really pay attention to your positioning, pay attention to your survivability, and make sure that we're staying alive. There's a lot of different things that go into deaths, but we just want to make sure that we're not dying, because dying is bad.
The war goes on.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's see how we use our ult here. But I really like that we're coming back up to the high grounds here. That's a good thing. But once again, we're kind of coming really far away, right? To the right side, left side here, we're much closer. We have line of sight on the grab now that it's tranced and lamped, but we can at least do damage from here and do things. Here, we don't really have sight lines on anything, so I probably would put ourselves top left here rather than top right, and then we can rotate if we need to, but probably be a better thing. Don't drop from high ground unless you need to drop from high ground. There's probably no reason at all that we should have dropped from high ground when we could have just gone left side, right? And then gotten to this exact same place, but with the high ground advantage, right? High ground gives you the advantage of it's all natural cover, but then on top of that, characters can't get up to you, right? So on their team, Hanzo can get up to you, Baptiste can get to you, Genji can get up to you, but Zarya can't get to you, Reinhardt can't get to you, Zenyatta can't get to you, right? So half their team can't get to you. The characters that do need to get to you, a lot of them require time and abilities, right? And then on top of that, high grounds also give you a ton of visibility where you can see a lot of things from, right? So we just want to make sure that we're probably sticking high ground here, not just giving it up for free. And make sure that we're not holding on to our ultimate, and we'll see how long we do keep it for, because sometimes it's real bad. I've had people that hold on to ultimates for like 4 fights in a row, which is very obviously not good, because ults that aren't used don't get value. But even here, we don't want to hold on to it. We want to be using it. On top of that, look to use our ultimate early on in the fight, right? So a good example to illustrate why you want to do this is, let's say the enemy team has a visor, right? They use visor before you use visor, so they get kills with it, they get picks, they do damage, and therefore their team's at an advantage. If you use visor second, you have less people to support you on your team, and you do get less value out of your visor because they already have the advantage. And even if you get kills with it, it's not as good as if you had used it first. So, on top of that, if you use your ultimate first, it can stop. Like, you could have potentially gotten picks and won this fight before they had a chance to win it, but now we're forced to hold on to it for longer. So just want to look to use our ultimates first, and want to make sure that we're not holding on to it, because ults that aren't used don't get value.
Knock me down and I'll keep getting back up.
30 seconds remaining. You should be objective lost. Stop the payload.
All right. We have to keep tabs on their team comp. Team comp dictates playstyle. So when they are on different characters, we need to play differently and pay attention to different things. If they're on a Doomfist Genji, we need to be playing differently than if they're on a Widowmaker and a Hanzo, right? If they're on Widow Hanzo, we need to be very careful with our positioning and making sure that we're not out in the open for too long, and we're not re-peeking the same angle, and that we're not making it easy for them to snipe us. But we don't have to worry about them jumping in our face, right? Doomfist Hanzo, or sorry, with Doomfist Genji, we don't need to worry about our sightlines nearly as much, but we need to be careful that we're not making it super easy for us to for them to dive on us, right? So this means that we need to be very, very aware of them, keeping our eyes open, keeping our ears open, watching flanks, paying attention to where the Doomfist is at, right? Making sure that we're ready to run away at a moment's notice. We also might want to stay with our team a little bit more often, right? Instead of running off on our own, right? That way we're not getting kind of rolled over by the Doomfist, right? So if we're with our team, we can have help from them, right? Ana can sleep Doomfist. We have a Doomfist who could punch Doomfist. We could get bubbled. We could get healed, right? We have a whole lot of assistance we can get from there. But if we're on our own, this makes us a very easy target to kill, right? So we just want to make sure we're paying attention to the matchup here, and just be ready for him to come and try to get us, because here we're just not prepared for it, and then we die as a result, which again is another death, right? Just not doing a whole lot for us. So I think that was, did we die? We died when they capped, right? So that's now like death 6.
I don't quit till the fight's done.
And we're, yeah, so just dying a little too frequently. Alright, I like that we're taking high ground though. Hopefully we're looking for visor here, but actually the fight might happen before we actually get there. Okay. Consider. Good.
In this situation, I could use visor.
Nope. Actually, I would say you
Nope.
probably don't want to use visor. Because in this situation, you guys have pretty much won the fight. It is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 1, 2, 3, right? And then for some reason you have 2 Doomfists over in spawn here. So right now you have a 2-person advantage, and that means that you probably don't need visor here. They could turn it around, but I would imagine that you would at least want to be hesitant to use it, because you have a very significant advantage at 2 people up. The thing I was gonna say here is that, like, when we see that they're over here, probably be a good idea to like position up top behind, like to run around up here, and that way we can kind of get an off angle, get behind them above. Just want to be careful of the Doomfist and the Genji again, right? Besides that, not much else to talk about. Right, I like the make sure we're not hesitating. Hesitation makes every decision worse. So that's just something you don't want to have. You want to either do it or don't do it, and you want to make the decision fast. If we're like, right, that means that if we decide to do it, we delay, and in the meantime our team's dying because we're not participating in this fight, right? So our team's at a 5v6 right now, because of our delay in our decision making. And if we decide not to do it, it's the same thing, right? So even if we make a good decision, hesitating always makes a good decision worse, and it makes the bad decision worse, right? So you always kind of want to get rid of hesitation and just go with, is it a good decision or bad decision? And you can look back on that later, but you just want to make the decision fast. Don't go back and forth on where you're going.
I've got you in my sights.
All right, now here we're going to go over watching kill feed. Sorry, I had someone walk in the room. So here we want to pay attention to kill feed. Kill feed's the top right corner of your screen, and that will tell you when you are winning or losing fights. When you are up 1 to 2 people, that is a when you're up 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage, right? At that point, you can play more aggressively, right? Now, when you are up 2 to 3 people, that is where you've pretty much won the fight. At that point, you don't want to use ults if you've won a fight, and you also want to look to just get super aggressive so you can look to go and get stagger kills. Now, this also goes the exact opposite way. When you are down 1 to 2 people, that is a disadvantage. You didn't lose the fight yet, but you might want to play more passive because you are losing the fight. And when you are down 2 to 3 people, that is pretty much a lost fight. And at that point, you don't want to use ults, and you also want to look to get out if possible. And if you don't think you can get out, you want to look to sorry, words aren't working. You want to look to get out if possible, and if you can't get out, let them kill you. So that you don't end up staggering yourself. Are you familiar with the term staggering?
No.
No. So staggering is basically just dying late. If let's say that our entire team dies and we die like 10 seconds after them, then they're all going to be walking up here and they're going to be like fighting the fight here. While we're all the way running back from spawn, right? Which obviously isn't going to be good for us because then they're going in when they're down a person, and if they decide, oh, we're down our soldier, let's wait for him, then we've just wasted time, right? So the staggering is a bad thing. You don't want to stagger, and that's why you want to look to die with your team, or if you think you can get out, you get out. You just don't want to stay in a fight for too long, and then on top of that, you want to look to stagger the enemy team when you know you're winning. Now, in this situation, we are at a disadvantage of 2 people, and if you lose 2 people at the very beginning of a fight, a lot of times that's going to indicate that you're losing the fight. But Genji is 1 HP here, so that could result in a kind of a turnaround for us. I just think that we just be careful and pay attention to it. Here, probably no reason to drop from high ground there at all, right? And if it's on an accident, then make sure that when we're approaching the edge of a high ground that we're crouching. This can allow us to better control our movement, and because when you crouch, you move slower, and that means that we're not sprinting off the edge, right? Here we just kind of walk off into them.
I've got you in my sights.
Right, even while you're ulting, look to use your helix to finish off targets, and then they win that fight.
Not dead yet.
Alright, so when you've lost a fight and you ult, you've pretty much, it's not going to change the course of the fight, and if you've won a fight and you ult, then it's just overkill and it wasn't necessary. So that you want to ult in any fight where you've not won or lost it yet, right? Basically is how it works.
Beacon in place.
Now we're swapping over to the Sombra. Are you like when I looked at your profile here, it looks like you're saying you play Soldier, then Ashe, then and a little bit Tracer and Reaper. Do you not have much playtime on McCree?
Not that much, yeah.
Not that much.
Sometimes I play him, but it's more like, yeah, in certain situations. When I don't know when. I just pick him randomly.
Randomly? Okay, well, if you're looking for the right situations, I can let you kind of fill you in on that. But I think McCree would be a good character to pick up. Right now, it seems like we're a little bit spread thin across the characters we're playing. Typically, you're gonna want to play like 2 to 3. I guess actually, when we put most of our time into Soldier, that's fine. But the other characters are going to be kind of situational. McCree is going to be really good into a dive, right? So if you're comparing McCree and Soldier, they both are very similar, right? Soldier and McCree both want to stay at the same range. They want to do kind of the same thing, but Soldier is a little bit more flanky, and McCree is a little bit more tanky. McCree is an extra 25 health. He also has his flashbang, which makes him a lot better for dive. He also has a burstier gun, so he can shoot things and kill them a little bit faster than Soldier can. So that makes him just a little bit better against dive characters, such as their Doomfist and their Genji, which would make McCree a pretty decent character to be running in this comp, which is why I brought it up in the first place. So, and he also kind of lines up with kind of the other characters that you play, because I would say that his play style and how he shoots kind of lines up well with Soldier and Ashe, and if you play them, then you might want to consider picking up McCree. And on top of that, Sombra's not the best hero at the moment, so just it's up to you, right? It's up to, like, it depends on what characters you want to play at all, but it's just a advice.
Gotcha. I'm out of here.
Just trying to stall up point there. Okay, here we probably wanted to, whenever you TP back, right? We do this and we TP back.
Gotcha.
We want to immediately place another translocator before we go back in. That way we can get, like, keep coming back rather than dying immediately, like, without having a way to escape, right? So you want to get into the habit of kind of doing that rotation of, we place translocator, we go in, we TP out, we place it again, we go in, we TP out. All right, here we don't place it again, and then that means that we just end up dying. We also kind of overstay our welcome here, as they kill Reinhardt, and then, if you're paying attention here, actually, do they kill? Yeah, they kill Reinhardt, right? So now it is a, 1, 2, 3, 4 versus a 1, 2, right? So we probably don't want to be up here right now if we're paying attention to our environment. So that comes in awareness. And then we just kind of stay here too long when we could be turning around right now and throwing a translocator and turning invis and running away, but we don't. So we just want to make sure we're paying attention. Real quick here, I'm gonna do a quick strengths and weaknesses of kind of what I'm looking at the moment, across all of our different characters here, and kind of where I think you stand in a lot of different things. So, starting off with ability usage, I haven't really seen, so far on Sombra, ability usage is looking pretty low, though I also don't think that you play Sombra very much. If you correct me if I'm wrong there.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, all right. So yeah, but you don't main her. So ability usage looking a little bit rough here so far, just with the translocator usage. I've only seen a little bit. Soldier, I think you have a decent grasp on our helix usage. Just want to get a little bit consistent with it. Health pack, I'd maybe say just use a little bit more often. So for example, when we visor, who is everybody on their team going to be looking at?
The enemy team is looking at me.
Yes, so we can predict that we're going to be taking damage pretty soon, and therefore, before we visor, just toss a health pack down real quick. And then just besides that, I think health pack, it wasn't too terrible. So honestly, so far ability usage, I don't think is that bad. Just maybe a little bit of consistency across all of them, but definitely not the biggest issue we're looking at right now. Ultimate usage, I think is again, I think it's a more of like in the medium here. I don't think it's the biggest issue, though we do want to look to use it more frequently. Don't hold on to it. Want to look to use it earlier in fights, and we want to make sure that we're not using it when we're up or when we're winning or losing when we have won or have lost a fight. Right, you want to use it before that point is hit. Moving on to mechanics. Mechanics, I think, again, is kind of in the medium category here. I don't think our mechanics are too terrible, though I think we could hit more headshots if we got used to crosshair placement. So we already talked about that. Besides that, I think just general mechanics are all right. But I definitely don't think the mechanics is the biggest thing to worry about at the moment. Then we come to positioning and awareness. And then within both of those comes survivability, as those are kind of like the two main categories that survivability kind of comes out of. So positioning, I think we do really good on the fact that we go to high ground, though we don't respect cover usage at all. And we also very often drop from high ground, sometimes into the enemy team, right? Which results in a lot of deaths. So positioning could be a lot better. Make sure we're respecting cover usage. Good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Besides that, sometimes like we're putting ourselves outside of fights. Try not to do rotations and be moving somewhere while the fight's happening, because you want to be participating in the fight. And then besides that, moving on to awareness, there's a lot of different things to be aware of, right? So we'll just go off of some of the different areas, right? You have HUD awareness, which is paying attention to our health bar, our abilities, our ultimate charge. That I haven't seen too much of an issue with. Maybe just making sure we're paying attention to the fact that we have our ult and paying attention to the fact that we have translocator. But I know besides that, HUD usage hasn't seemed too terrible. Kill feed is definitely something that needs to be worked on. We already talked about that before, right? You also have in-game awareness of where's the enemy team at, where's our team at, right? That I think needs a little bit of awareness as well, so that we can make decisions a little bit better. So making sure we're paying attention to the in-game characters. And then besides that, you have audio awareness. I haven't seen too much of a need for that. You also have there's some other areas that we won't go into, but that's what we're kind of looking at the moment. And then survivability is probably, I would say, the biggest thing on my mind so far, which kind of comes, I'll put that in with, honestly, I'd have that like as its own separate category at the moment, because it's a big mixture of everything that's causing us to die. We're dying in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different situations. So we want to look to stay alive a lot longer, and that's looking like the number one thing at the moment. Right. So again, we die. So that was like maybe death like 8 so far, or something like that. And we're only less than halfway through the game, right?
No manches. I might need this later.
Okay, just so you can get around faster. Don't decloak yet. You want to be able to be cloaked, come up next to them or behind them or whatever, and then decloak. You don't want to decloak too early, because then this just means like we kind of end up walking the whole time. You being in your cloak means that you have 50% plus movement speed. Okay, good hack.
See you later. Here I am.
Okay, make sure we're spamming a lot more on Sombra. We're focusing like almost solely on hacks, and we're hacking, sitting there, hacking, sitting there, hacking, sitting there, right? That's basically kind of what it looks like so far. And we want to make sure we're just shooting more often, and basically in between our hacks, we're going shoot, 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 shoot. Because charging EMP is a very big part of Sombra, because EMP is a very, very powerful ultimate, and we want to make sure we're getting that faster, which comes by us doing damage. You charge ults by doing damage. So here we want to make sure that we are, actually shooting at stuff, because we're not really shooting at anything so far. You can kind of see that, like, if we just rewinded it real quick, you can see, like, okay, we come up against the Reinhardt. Okay, no shooting. Okay, no shooting. We're just hacking. No, okay, we even after we hack Reinhardt, we don't shoot at anything. No shooting. Right, so we just went a whole like 10 seconds without shooting. Right now we shoot for a tiny little bit, and then we cloak, and then we get out, and then we hack, and then we shoot for a little bit, and then we shoot for a little bit. Alright, so you just want to make sure we're focusing a little bit more on shooting. We also don't replace our translocator again, right? So you just want to get into the habit of that. Every time you're translocating away, you're replacing it, so you can do it again. Okay, sometimes it looks like we're trying to hack outside of our range, so keep the range in mind. I think it'd be a good idea to go over that range. So we're 741 right now, as we're trying to hack outside of that range at the moment. Also, just curious, are you caring too much? Like, I don't want to spend too much time on a character if we're not planning on playing them too much. Would you, do you stay Sombra for very long, or would you like to like fast forward to a different character?
We can fast forward. I'm use it and play it like more when I'm out of knowledge what I should play.
Mhm.
Then it's my random pick against a Genji, because I try to hack them, and then the
Yep.
team can maybe do something. So
Yeah, or
try to
McCree also
focus
would be
on.
pretty decent against that as well, right?
Yeah, I think I would do better with McCree than Sombra. My Sombra isn't that awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So see, we can't hack him. Can't hack him. Can't hack him. Okay, 15 meters, right? So that's actually this might look like 16 meters or something like that, but it's like somewhere within this range, right? Like 15 meters ish, right? You just want to make sure we're sticking within it. If we're not within this range, we don't want to be right clicking. We want to be just spamming in damage, right? So we can just skip forward here then to where you're actually on. What do you want, Soldier, right?
Oh, even when I played this game today, I don't know what I played because this game was really frustrating. Yeah, we can fast forward. I
Yeah,
didn't
okay.
hit something, so I switched it up. I guess I switched now to Echo.
Alright, it looks like we're playing a lot of different characters, and I'd probably recommend toning it down a little bit. And even when you're basically, I'll just say this real quick. Um, let's say we'll do a quick illustration. Let's say we play 6 different characters, right? And we split. It's not going to be this accurate, but let's just spread our playtime evenly. Let's say we have 600 hours, and we put 100 hours in each character, right? That means that we have spread our playtime, right, and we have 100 hours each character. Now let's take that and condense it into 2 characters or 3. Let's do 3 characters first, right? We condense that into 3 characters. Now we have doubled our amount of time that we're learning ability usage, that we're learning ult usage, that we're learning how this specific character's positions and how this character should be playing in their play style. And then if we condense that even further, and we put it into 2 characters. Now we have tripled that amount of playtime, and we're getting 300 hours on each, right? So just make sure you're not swapping around too frequently, and that it's completely fine to. So like, I'm not saying to never swap, because swapping is most definitely an option, especially like if you're getting countered or you feel like you need to swap, but you don't want to do it so frequently. And the other thing this is going to do is if you're swapping, like, I think this is like the 5th character we've been on so far, and that's just going to mean that we're messing with like our ult charge as well, and we're going to be getting less ultimates if we constantly are swapping. um and then we want to kind of prioritize certain characters. So it's not that we want to one trick and never play any other characters, but we want to look to say, okay, these are the characters I'm going to try to pick most of the time, and then anything else will just swap if it's absolutely needed. But here it kind of seems like we're swapping around very, very frequently, and that's going to not allow us to get as many ults as we could be. Right, so it seems like we're in Echo for a while here.
So would you say that I should play then Soldier, McCree, and maybe a Tracer? Would you say the two champs would be better?
Yeah, I think
So
that would be a pretty decent kind of trio to have. Yeah, I'd probably say the Tracer would work well with a dive, McCree would work well against the dive, and then Soldier would work well in pretty much anything, right? So that gives you a pretty versatile kit to work with. A lot of the times you want to try to stick, like when it comes to the characters you're playing, you want to try to stick within your roles. So for example, like Hitscan, you try to stick within Hitscan, because Echo isn't Hitscan because she's a lot of her like, besides her beam, everything she shoots is projectile shots. So and on top of that, it play styles are going to be more similar within Hitscans. Echo is a flex DPS character or a projectile. A lot of those characters rely a lot more on abilities than just flat out shooting stuff, whereas a lot of Hitscan characters rely more on just go pew pew, and a lot less on big powerful abilities. Like if you compared Echo's abilities to a Ash or a McCree, right? Echo has a lot more abilities to work with. So I just say their play styles fit together more, and as well as their you just hitting primary shots as well is going to fit together better on if you're going in between hit scan characters. Right? Do we stay on Echo this whole time? We go back to Widow.
yeah, but just randomly, I guess Echo was then the last pick.
All right. Did you want to go over this, or do you want to go over a different replay then?
I guess it's better when we change to a different replay
All
and
right.
maybe look more about other stuff.
Sounds good.
So I need to relog fast. Okay. So
Alrighty, it's up on the stream.
Ready for battle.
Alright. So you want any over the tracer here? Or
yeah, but we can talk about Tracer because I like to play Tracer. She was
Alright.
my first character I ever played.
Alright. Alright, always just try to make sure you're coming out of spawn on time, right? It's just a good habit to get into because, you know, when we don't, then that sets us back because the enemy team gets ahead of us in ult charge. Like, we take a look and we have somebody at 25, 34, 30, 27, 42, and then meanwhile we're at 9, right? So you just want to make sure that we're keeping up and not walking out of the spawn 15, or actually like 25 seconds late, right? Alright, skip forwards here. Alright.
Activating the barrier.
We still need you.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Okay. Crosshair placement again, just make sure we're aiming head level. We're hitting a lot of body shots here. And you can see how we're kind of aiming, and we're aiming at feet level, right? Crosshair's constantly here, and that just means that we don't hit headshots at all. Other than that, not much happening yet. Right, we probably don't want to be pushing up this far. Right, this is really far ahead of our team, and because we have 2 people back on car over here, we don't have heals, and then that just means that, you know, we get shot, we probably die, and we probably don't want to be pushing this far forward. To get means that a lot more people can just look at us and shoot at us. Okay, make sure we're shooting at stuff. I think we're looking for a pulse. Yeah. Make sure we're, even while we're looking for a pulse, so we're continuing to shoot, right? That way we do extra damage. That way, like, if we don't land the pulse directly, we still kill them. Means that they maybe don't, it's less obvious that you're looking for a pulse, and it makes it a little bit easier for you to land it without it getting like bubbled or something like that. But other than that, we at least landed it. And you kind of see crosshair placement again. We're kind of walking up here and look at where we're aiming, right? Where the enemy's at, right? The enemies are on the right side, and we're kind of walking up here, aiming at the floor, looking to the left, and it just means that, like, you know, we turn this corner and they shoot at us before we shoot at them, or where we come out, we should be looking over here already. We're kind of looking in the opposite direction. And don't rush your engagement. Take some time with it. Also, probably going for the Ash who's standing still is going to be a little bit easier of a target to kill. Right? You saw that when you were standing still, right? Snipers who are standing still have very big hitboxes. They're not moving out around a whole lot, so they're very easy to go for. So here, we probably want to just like wait a couple seconds till maybe like till Ash is on her own. Right now, this is a perfect time to go on her. She's not looking at you. You blink in right next to her, and you just like one clip her in the head, and she's dead. Right? We don't need to rush the engagement here, and we also want to make sure we're aiming at headshots on something that's, you know, letting us hit headshots for free. Alright,
It's again the same that I just move forward and didn't try to move
Yep.
left or right.
Strafe a little bit, as well as the fact that, you know, remember cover usage again. Right, we want to look when we're trying to dodge out damage. You know, probably say something like this, like in blinking over here, getting us out of her line of sight. It's gonna be a lot better than just going straight forwards here, because this keeps us in her line of sight. Right, just means that it's very easy to kill us. Just want to look to move out of her line of sight. All right. Now, so we didn't get to go over too much of Tracer there, but we're actually going to leave here so that we can do a review and kind of go over the main points of what we were looking at for the session. So, we were on a lot of different characters there. So, I'm probably gonna we're most of the time we're on Soldier, and I'm gonna go stay Soldier here, and then we'll maybe go over a little bit of the abilities on the other characters. But that's pretty much it that changes across them. Alright, so starting off, we just go around the block here. Ability usage. Helix, make sure we're just getting consistent with it. So far, I think it looked pretty decent, but there's a couple times where we just didn't use it, like especially while we were like ulting, right? We just want to make sure we're still using it while we're ulting for burst damage to kill something. Besides that, with our placing our pack, look every time we go on a flank, right? So we're coming up to high ground, right? When we know people are gonna look at us, we pre-pack so that we have it and we can stay here longer and we have more survivability, right? Also, just make sure we're using it often, we're not holding on to it. And then besides that, not too much of an issue with abilities on Soldier, but we'll go over those with the other characters as well. Visor, make sure we're not there's a couple things here now, right? Make sure we're not holding on to it because ults that aren't used don't get value. Make sure that we are using it early in fights, that way we're not forced to hold on to it for longer, and we also to use early get more value. On top of that, make sure we're not using it when a fight's been won or lost, right? So pay attention to kill feed and make sure we're not using it then. Alright, besides that, that was pretty much it. I think the positioning was fine with our Visor, and I only saw us use one. Moving on to our mechanics, make sure that we are aiming head level so we can hit headshots to do a lot more damage, and that we are aiming where we know people are going to be so that we can hit easier shots. Right, on from there, terrible, but they're also not the best, so they do still need to be worked on. And when it comes to like practicing all this stuff that we're talking about, I'll do a quick cut here real quick. We want to make sure that you're really focusing on what you're trying to improve on. The easiest way to stagnate and to not do anything and to improve is to just autopilot while you're playing the game, or to focus on winning while you're playing, right? Instead, focus on improving. And how we do that is we really focus in on a specific thing we're trying to improve on. So for example, we can focus in on mechanics, and our brain should look something like this, where we're going mechanics, shoot, and that way you're putting all of your attention into your mechanics, and you'll notice that when we're doing that, we're going to be shooting a little bit better. We're going to be hitting a little bit more shots, right, when we're putting all of our attention into it. And therefore, if we do that for a long enough time, then it'll form into a habit. And after it forms into a habit, we no longer have to put as much attention and focus and effort into our mechanics, and therefore we can swap to something else, and we can put it into now awareness or something like that, right? So we just want to make sure that we're focusing. Now, we talked about a lot of stuff. You don't want to go over every single thing at once. That's going to get overwhelming. Don't try to do all of that at once. Instead, focus on like one category or kind of 3 smaller things, right? Then that's just how you look to get in better and improve at anything you're trying to work on here. Alright, now moving on, besides that, I don't think there's anything else really with mechanics that we talked about, though it was an issue just hitting shots, so you just look to keep practicing on that. Positioning.
I'm already practicing with aim trainer, especially on Soldier, to how can I say it in English? To improve my tracking a little bit and to try to get headshots.
Yep, that's definitely a good thing to do. How much time do you typically spend on an aim trainer?
I just started 2 days ago, and I played an hour a day.
Well, yep. If you're playing, you say if you're playing 10 to 12 hours, that's completely fine to do an hour a day. So yeah, that's a good idea. If you ever lower your time, like you get busy again and you don't have time, like you don't have the same amount of time, then I probably wouldn't recommend like an hour, right? So like if you, let's say like you only have like 4 hours or something like that, then you might want to do it more like, 30 minutes, or like just as you're warming up to play and you're in queue for a game or something like that. You don't want to spend too much time if you have less time to play comp. But at the moment, if you have 10, 12 hours to play, then most definitely aim training is a good way to practice. Right? Moving on to positioning, right? Good positioning is the usage of cover. If we are standing right here, there's an absence of cover, therefore we die. If we're standing here, this is much better positioning, so make sure we're respecting good cover usage. And on top of that, look to take high grounds, but I think, and we wish we do, and that's really good, but we also drop from high grounds very frequently. So make sure we're looking to keep it unless we're forced to drop from the high ground, because high grounds are really good. Pay attention to cover usage on the high ground as well, right? Don't wide peek, look to people see you, right? Because you only need to see a couple people in the first place, all right? And then that is pretty much it on that end, right? Awareness. make sure you're paying attention to, right? What are they on? What are we on? That way we can make better decisions, and team comp dictates play style. That way we can change how we're playing it up against, like, for example, the Doomfist who's jumping on us, so make sure we're paying attention and just trying to outrun him and stay away from him, play with our team more, right? That type of deal. Listen for him, watch for him. Audio awareness wasn't too terrible. Visual awareness, make sure we're paying attention to our team that's around us and where the enemy team is as well. Make sure we're paying attention to kill feed, right? 1 to 2 picks is an advantage. 2 to 3 is a one fight. Down 1 to 2 is disadvantage. Down 2 to 3 is a lost fight, right? No ults in a lost in a one fight, and then look to push forward and get more aggressive when you're winning and play more passive when you're losing, right? And look to get out if you can, regroup if you can't, and die if you can. All right, now on from there. HUD usage, HUD watching, not too much of an issue, and then I think that is it on mechanics ends. Survivability, probably the biggest one here. Like staying alive, as we died very, very frequently, and that resulted in a whole lot. So we want to focus on staying alive. Think about what kills you. Whenever you die, that's how I improved at the game. Was I thought
To learn.
the future, right? So look at your deaths. Think, why did I die? Right? If it's bad, it could have been bad positioning. It could have been poor awareness, right? And then what could I have done to stay alive here and do differently? And then that's how you're gonna look to stay alive more often, right? Now, main points, right? What are the main things to work on? I'd probably say number 1 is survivability. Number 2 comes in, and then I think a lot of them are actually pretty close. So that after survivability, I think it gets a little bit more even out. Probably say number 2 comes in at positioning, as that led to a whole lot of deaths. Number 3 at mechanics. Number 4 we're gonna put at our I'm trying to think. Ultimate usage. Number 5 we're gonna put at our awareness, and then number 6 we'll put at ability usage. I also forgot to mention some of the other abilities for other characters. Sombra, make sure that you're shooting more often, right? Not just focusing on hack. Think about the hack distance. Throw translocator. Whenever we TP back from translocator, look to throw a new one down, right? So instead of just walking straight back into the fight, TP, throw it down, and then walk back, right? That's just a combo you want to look for. On Ashe, we were on Ashe for like 2 seconds and you died immediately, so I don't really know. Tracer, again, you weren't on her for too long, so I don't really know what to talk about with her. So that's pretty much it. Do you have any questions about anything we've gone over?
It's a lot.
Yep.
But I guess I will focus on the first thing you said. The first thing is the survivability, and then I will definitely train more my aim again. I mean, I've already started it, so that I will improve. And I guess I will try to work on that, and then I will maybe buy me a new session.
Alrighty, sounds good, man. So I'm going to